Oh, how easily somebody will change their mind once it's very convenient for them or their narrative, because these very same games journalists, the ones that myself or Hypnotic or Asmongold have been going after for the last 2.5 years, maybe more, are now saying that they are very anti the freedom and anti the censorship that has come about because of the payment processors and collective chat situation. So welcome back to Words Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idol, and yes, not one, but two different articles from two different writers at The Gamer are denouncing this censorship and the collective shout sort of situation, which again, it's kind of funny because last I recall, when Cabrutus Rambo decided to make a Steam curation page for games that involve Sweet Baby Inc., they blasted him. When we were saying, hey, maybe Stellar Blade can just be a good game and who cares if it's got a sexy female character in it, they tried to censor us or say that we were just right-wing chuds and we're fake gamers. Or these are the same people that were advocating for the necessity of these third-party consultation companies effectively wanting to censor the creative visions and works of the people who are making these games to begin with. But no. Now that someone has actually come in and shown the real censorship at a very top government level, or even beyond the government in the forms of the payment processors, Visa, MasterCard, things to that effect, have shown, yeah, it doesn't really matter what you want or what you like, we're the ones with the power to shut it down. They get real quiet for a few weeks, and then they start flip-flopping over to the same side as us, which has not been the right side or the left side, but it's just been the anti-censorship side. So we're going to go through this before we do hit that subscribe button. I'm a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news nearly every day. And yes, adult games are only the beginning. Grand Theft Auto and Saints Row are reportedly at risk of being delisted by payment processors. Yeah, this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. I know if you're watching me, it's not a surprise to you, because we've talked about this at length. We've talked about this ad nauseum, whether it be in other videos, whether it be on the live streams, that sure, we can maybe agree that, these sorts of games are disgusting, I wouldn't play them, things like that. But they still should have a right to exist, to be there, because freedom of choice is what matters, and these products are not illegal products. But beyond that, you give an inch, they take a mile. So once you're saying you're okay with the porn games, the rape games, the incest games, things like that, once you are okay with those being delisted, that absolutely opens the door to the next subjectively bad thing down the pipeline. So you know what? We got rid of the porn games. Now let's come for the games with obscene amounts of violence, i.e. Grand Theft Auto. So what do they got to say about this? Over the last few weeks, payment processors have been pressuring digital storefronts like Steam and itch.io to remove adult games. However, a Zoom platform representative claimed that this controversial campaign would go much further, which, yes, it will. It always has been, it always will. This is the same old song and dance. One employee told Gaming on Linux that during conversations with payment processors, titles like Grand Theft Auto, Duke Nukem, and Saints Row were described as potentially at risk of being delisted, confirming worries that adult games aren't the only target of this campaign. And let me tell you, if you were an individual that, thought that only adult games were going to be the target of this campaign, I got a British to sell you, because you're a fucking gullible moron. Like, again, if you're watching this and you didn't think that, then by all means, I'm not talking to you. But search real deep down in your inside feely parts and tell yourselves, well, no, I thought that they were going to stop the porn games because we don't like to see women abused. If you really thought that, yes, you're the fucking idiot I'm talking about here. Zoom has no plans to remove any titles and is instead exploring alternate payment options such as a wallet system, which will allow users to add funds to their account and spend them on its products. GOG is likewise refusing to delist adult games, instead made 13 of them free for 48 hours in protest. However, Zoom doesn't sell any Saints Row or GTA titles, whereas Steam, which has removed adult games, does. Yes, Steam bit the knee, and the gamer is calling out Steam for bending the knee. But again, how can you be okay with this? Because you've spent so many articles, so much time, so much resources trying to pressure not just gamers, but also game developers along your line of thinking. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm A-okay with the better late than never mentality. Those that come to the party and they're like, you know what? We know we spent the last 2.5 years lambasting you and yours and people that think like you, but now that we're affected, okay, maybe we should be alongside each other one of this one, temporary allies. And yes, I'm alright with that. I do like that they are writing these articles, that they're bringing awareness to it. I think they're doing it in a very slimy sort of way without actually, naming names or calling out how bad this is or whatnot, or again, acknowledging their past mistakes. But whatever. Baby steps, am I right? 10 years ago, Collective Shout campaigned against GTA 5. Now, remind you, this article came out 2 days ago. Yeah, we already knew all this already. Like, how behind are these games journalists? We talked about collective shout campaigning against GTA 5 like 3 or 4 weeks ago on Saturday Night Hypnosis. Why is it taking you guys this long to come to the party? Again, those of us on this side, the right side, right as in correct, because this has not been about left versus right politically. It's not Democrats versus Republicans. It's those of us that actually care about freedom, the freedom of choice, artistic interpretation, artistic, people being able to make what they want and then letting the free market decide without any, involuntary hands or forced hands from other, whether it be corporations or companies or just third parties in general. Like if a creator wants to make a game and then you say, no, you have to have a consultation company, we're against that. Why? Because that goes against likely what the original creator and author wanted to do. Same thing here. We are against the idea of these games being censored. Guess what? There was a whole lot of LGBTQ games censored. And guess what? I'm absolutely offended by that. I have a problem with that. Why? Because I like those sorts of games? No. Y'all know where I stand on the LGBTQ nonsense. That being said, should they have the right to exist? Absolutely. Should people have the right to purchase them or make changes to do whatever it is? Yeah, absolutely. And you can use your freedom of choice to buy them or not to buy them. But then they wrote another article. They wrote another article yesterday. Valve says that MasterCard pressures Steam to take down games that are offensive and lack artistic value. Alright, so now you're getting into the woods of it. You're going to go ahead and start talking about the actual real-world ramifications of this stuff. Last month, Steam removed several adult games from its storefront, despite usually having high tolerance for the content it hosts. It's then followed suit, de-indexing all of its NSFW games. Anti-pornography group Collective Shout took responsibility for this, having pressured payment processors to threaten to pull their support from stores if the games objected were not taken down. The gaming community was quick to mobilize against this, with many concerned about the precedent this would set. You're right, many were concerned about the precedent this would set. Just like how we were concerned with the precedent that, like, for example, completely normalizing these third-party consultation companies in games would set. But again, you were all on board from that one. It's very strange. It's almost suspicious that, you're against it now, but, can't see the forest through the trees, I suppose. In response to the backlash, MasterCard tried to distance itself from this discourse, claiming that it had not restricted any activity on game creator sites and platforms like Steam and itch. Now, Valve has issued a response disputing MasterCard's statement. Here, Valve says that it was told to remove titles that were a risk to MasterCard brand, which includes any content that the company deems unacceptable. Now, it's good that Steam is, finally actually saying something about it. It's great that Steam is like, yeah, no, MasterCard's lying. But that being said, Steam can say whatever they want. Like, how is this going to change? Now, again, I'm glad these guys are reporting on this, but we can still sort of taste the hypocrisy. Valve says that MasterCard's rules block games that could harm its reputation. As reported by Game Industry Biz, Valve responded by MasterCard's version of events in a statement on Kotaku. MasterCard did not communicate with Valve directly, despite our request to do so. A Valve spokesperson says, MasterCard communicated with payment processors and they're acquiring bakes. Payment processors communicated this with Valve, and we replied by outlining Steam's policy since 2018 of attempting to distribute games that are legal for distribution. Payment processors rejected this, specifically cited MasterCard's Rule 5.12.7 at risk to the MasterCard brand. The rule is all-encompassing, making it clear that companies that utilize MasterCard's service are responsible for not hosting and selling anything which could harm its reputation, and as Steam suggested when this controversy began, gives companies like Microsoft and payment processors the power to remove any material that it objects to. The rule reads as follows. A merchant must not submit to its acquirer, and a customer must not submit to the interchange system. Any transaction is illegal or in the sole discretion of the corporation may damage the goodwill of the corporation or reflect negatively on the marks. Now, let's be real, guys. No one has ever said, I'm going to cancel my MasterCard because they let people buy Playboy. Like, it's never fucking happened. It never will happen. That's why this is so much bigger than just the idea of censoring video games. The sale of product or service, including an image which is patently offensive or lacks serious artistic value, such as, by way of example and not limitation, images of non-consensual sexual behavior, sexual exploitation of a minor, non-consensual mutilation of a person or body part, and bestiality. Now, hold on. Listen. Non-consensual mutilation of a person or body part. That puts horror games absolutely the forefront to be ripe for being plucked from Steam or itch or any of these other platforms. Like how many horror games do you see dismemberment? Do you see arms ripped off, heads chopped off? And let me tell you, that shit, it ain't ever consensual. You never play a horror game and someone's like, yeah, go ahead, cut my arm off, I could take it, bro. Like, so even if we were to take the sexual aspect of this aside, the non-consensual mutilation of a person or body part, I mean, shit, That could be war games as well. Like, you want to play yourself some Call of Duty? Well, maybe not Call of Duty. There's not really, like, limb loss or whatever. But the point is, like, insert a very realistic war simulator. Maybe someone steps on a landmine and loses a leg. Yep, nope, that's gone as well. So, again, if you thought this was going to stop at porn games, you're fucking retarded. Well, I didn't mean to click that. The second part is key here. While many of the games moved from Steam and de-index on itch may not be illegal, they could be considered offensive, and some critics would argue that they lack serious artistic value. But this is incredibly subjective, and we've seen how Collective Shout has previously targeted games that are widely considered to have artistic value, like Grand Theft Auto 5 and Detroit Become Human. Now, again, I'm glad they're saying this. Finally, you're getting it right. You mentioned how, this is subjective. This is incredibly subjective. Is that not what we were saying about Stellar Blade, or what we were saying about these quote-unquote woke games that we didn't want to buy? We were not saying those games shouldn't be made. We weren't saying those games shouldn't exist. We were saying, we don't like them. We're not going to buy them. If other people do it, go for it. I'm sure there are people out there that bought, or maybe not bought, but bought Concord. Yeah, Concord was a $40 game. 12 people out there bought Concord. No one was saying Concord shouldn't exist, or at least didn't have the right to exist. It definitely shouldn't have existed, but that's because it was bad. But the point is, all this shit is subjective, and they've spent the last several years trying to lambast us for the way we think, but now that it's coming for their LGBTQ games or whatever, now they're in the fight against censorship. It truly is an abhorrent mentality, but again, better late than never, so I will still stand by them with them being correct, or really them agreeing with us that we're correct. It remains to be seen if payment processors will relent to how these titles return to storefronts. In the meantime, itch has re-indexed the free-to-play adult games on the site. It's going to get more back up and running alongside them, and that's really the end of it. They don't have a whole lot of new things to say. The fact is being said is what's interesting, because everything that's been in these two articles that I went over, I have said, and then I said it weeks ago, again, in various other videos or live streams. Like, this seems like kind of a greatest hits rehash of everything we've been going through for the last month or so, but really this is just to point out that where were these guys last month when this was happening? Where was the slippery slope argument coming from these games journalists a month ago when this was happening? And is it worth it that they're bringing it up now? I mean, I guess in some small part, yes, because they're just not willing to suckle at the teat of censorship. But I also do wonder if Collective Shout wasn't a right-wing feminist group, if they'd be less inclined to cover this. It's almost as if they waited. They want to make sure that this was a clear and valid target. Like, oh, Collective Shout is right-wing, they're anti-abortion, they're anti-pornography. Okay, now we have the go-ahead to go against them. I mean, I'm just curious if the Mary Sue has actually made any sort of articles on this, because the Mary Sue, they are funded by an Australian backer. I don't know if they actually are based in Australia, but their backer, their main financier, unless it's changed hands since last time I did the research, is in fact Australian. So it kind of would go against the whole, look, the point is, what I'm getting at is that it's better late than never, but also if you're going to report on this and you're going to do your due diligence and whatnot, you better come a whole lot more prepared than just these half-ass articles, because these aren't going to do anything. There was no passion here. There was barely any even new news, because all this stuff was covered by YouTubers a month ago. You wonder why your job is irrelevant? It's exactly that, because anything that you talked about has already been talked about to death. Now, again, more names in the fight, more people in the fight, I'm all for it, but you're going to need to do a better job. Those are just my opinions. Let me know yours in the comments down below, or let me know on X, where you can find me at Bolt the Word, and please do subscribe. I'm a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news nearly every day. Not always about the video game industry, but anime, movies, music, Magic the Gathering, you name it. Check me out on Instagram at wordsparadise_Leon and become a member for $4.99 a month. You can join the Discord, choose the articles you go over on a day-to-day basis, choose the videos we react to on the daily live streams, and of course get involved with over 200 other vital idols. We are a bright, beautiful, glowing, vibrant community that I cannot wait to grow even further, because we do care about diversity. Only one kind of diversity of thought. That's instantly to you. Join the Discord, hit subscribe, and until next time, it's all here in the Nerdosphere. This has been Words of Paradise.